Magic is an ever-evolving game and has seen periodic changes to the way it's played throughout its now 25-year history. I'm your host Mike, and we'll be looking at 5 antiquated MTG mechanics you didn't know or forgot about. Mana burn. Within the lore, mana burn happens when the magic user holds mana but does not end up using it and is then damaged by holding it. They might even be killed or zombified into a member of the Fallen. As a game mechanic, if a player had mana remaining in their mana pool when moving between game phases, they would lose 1 life for each mana remaining before the pool was emptied. Mana burn was also considered a mana ability. The change in this game mechanic removed the drawback from Braid of Fire, allowing a player to freely gain more and more red mana to use in each of their consecutive upkeeps. This mechanic might be familiar to many players as it was removed relatively recently in the transition from Alara Reborn to Magic 2010. In game designer Mark Rosewater's article Magic Lessons, he describes how mana burn was almost removed in 6th edition and how he fought to keep it. Then, 10 years later, he led the efforts to have it removed. Mana sources. Mana source is an outdated card type that was only ever used on 2 cards, Culling the Weak and a few sets of Dark Ritual. Before Mirage, Dark Ritual was printed as an interrupt, which were faster than instants and can only be responded to with other interrupts. In the same fashion, mana sources were also faster than instants. This mechanic was eventually phased out with all of the rules changes that came with 6th edition. Banding. Banding is one of those abilities that players make jokes about but have rarely ever had experience with. It was printed as early as Alpha and saw regular use up through the Weatherlight expansion. For a simple explanation, creatures with banding could join a creature without banding in an attack which allowed them to attack as a unit. For an attacking band, the attacking player had the ability to choose how the blocking creature's damage was assigned. For a blocking band, the blocking player was allowed to choose how the attacking creature's combat damage was assigned. Unlike the other card types and mechanics on this list, banding was not actually removed from the game, but rather abandoned as a game mechanic for being considered overly complicated. With the amount of crazy combos that happen today, banding doesn't seem too complicated. Mono, poly, and continuous artifacts. Nowadays, we just call them artifacts, with some having static abilities, triggered abilities, and even activated abilities. In the early days of Magic, before revised, non-creature artifacts were typed based on the type of ability they provided. Mono artifacts such as the original Moxen and Black Lotus were tapped to use their activated ability. A few cards also required a mana cost in addition to tapping. Because they were tapped, they could only be used once until they became untapped again. Poly artifacts such as Illusionary Mask and Ashnod's Altar were activated by paying a cost. As the name suggests, a player could activate these as many times as they wanted as long as they could afford to do so. Continuous artifacts such as Meekstone and Gauntlet of Might provided a continuous effect so long as they stayed on the battlefield. Our artifacts today might provide more than one of these abilities. The Batch. I think it's safe to say that most new Magic players are confused by the stack. It can be a somewhat complicated game mechanic, but its central role in the game has helped to set Magic apart as a unique game. Most players would be surprised to know that the stack was not actually a part of the game until Classic 6th edition. Before then, the game utilized a similar system called the Batch. The 4th edition rules book defined the Batch system as a batch of non-interrupt fast effects, responses to responses to responses, is resolved last to first. So as you can see, it worked essentially like our stack currently does. However, the main and perhaps only functional difference was that damage was not checked until the batch was fully resolved. This contrasts with the way state-based actions are checked on the stack, meaning that you cannot kill a creature with a lightning bolt in response to someone attempting to giant growth it. That's it for this list. Do you remember playing with any of these mechanics? Make sure you let us know in the comments. Remember to also leave a like down below and hit that subscribe button to keep tabs on our new videos. Thanks for watching.